What's up, guys? Steven here with Steven's Best Loot, coming at you with another video. Today we are going to be talking about one of my favorite types of silver to stack, and that is constitutional or junk silver. Why I stack constitutional silver, the different types of constitutional silver you can buy, and pros and cons to all of it. So let's jump on in. If that sounds good to you, make sure you stay through to the end of the video. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoy the content, please drop a like down there. So to kick it off, guys, here is your basic constitutional silver. We have halves, dimes, and quarters. If you guys don't know what constitutional or junk silver is, it is coinage that was made before 1964. 1964 and newer coinage is 90% silver. 90% silver. So to think we used to actually carry around a whole bunch of silver in our pocket. Today, this is worth a lot more than its face value, so always make sure you check your change. If you see that 1964 or older date on any of your silver coinage, your halves, dimes, or quarters, make sure you keep that because it is worth far more than its face value. So, diving in a little bit to the different types, with half dollars, there's three main types that you're going to come across. There is more half dollars than this, but these are the most common ones if you're going to be buying junk silver at your coin dealer or your bullion shop. There is the 1964 Kennedy, and it is only 1964. Any other year Kennedy is not 90% silver. From 65 to 70, they made them with 40% silver, and then beyond that, they are not silver at all. They are just clad. But the 1 year of 1964, the special issue after the assassination, they were minted in 90% silver. So any 64 Kennedys you come across are 90% silver. Right now, junk silver is selling for about 22 times its face value. So if we look at something like this half dollar is actually worth about $11. Even at melt, I believe we're at about 19 times face value at melt. So this is still worth about $9.50 just in the melt value of silver in it. Far more than the 50 cents on the face value, right? So there's 1964 Kennedys. Then there is Franklin halves. That one's kind of ugly. Let's see if we find a nicer looking one in here. Here we go. This is a little bit better example. So the Franklins were the predecessor of the half dollars to the Kennedy. They changed it quickly after Kennedy was assassinated. Prior to that, we were doing Franklin half dollars, and these are also 90% silver. And then prior to the Franklin, in the 10s, 20s, 30s, and 40s, we were doing what they called Walking Liberty or walkers, which look a lot like the American Silver Eagle design. But these were actually half dollars that people carried around in their pocket that were made of 90% silver. So all of these generally trade for about the same rate. Some of the older ones like the walkers can sometimes sell for a little bit more of a premium. It really depends because you actually lose some silver weight in there, which is something I'm going to talk about a minute later. So some people prefer the Kennedys since they are newer and mostly uncirculated, so they haven't worn down really. Then we go into dimes. The two major dimes you are going to come across if you're buying junk silver is the Mercury dime and the Roosevelt dime. And that's the reverse of those. The Mercury dime, in my opinion, is probably one of the most beautiful coins the U.S. Mint ever minted. I really, really like the Mercury dime, and I'm not alone in that. There's a lot of collectors that love Mercury dimes. And then the last 90% coinage you will come across most likely is Washington quarters. You might also find some standing Liberty quarters in your 90% bag. I don't think I snagged any of those out, but more often than not, you're going to primarily find Washington quarters. They look just like the clad quarters from the previous year, but once again are going to be 1964 or older. Now, the reason we call this junk silver or constitutional silver is because they do not have any numismatic value, meaning any collector value. So as you see, like the Walking Liberties here, these are pretty worn down, and most of them are what are going to be considered common dates. So the dates where they produced a lot and the mints where they produced a lot. Now, you can occasionally get lucky and find some rare dates or varieties in your junk silver bag. I know I watch a channel on YouTube called Rob Finds Treasure, and he'll search junk silver bags and find all sorts of cool stuff. He also coin roll hunts like I do and finds a lot of this stuff just in circulation. It's getting scarcer and scarcer, but it is still possible to go get a roll of $50 and find one of these guys in there that's worth $9.50 melted versus the 50 cents you paid for it. So that's always a fun addition to the hobby. But basically, there is no numismatic value, no collector value to these coins. None of them are in good enough condition or rare enough dates that anybody would pay additional money for collecting them. The reason we purchased them and the reason they still exist and aren't just replaced with new coinage is because of the silver content. So any of these, they all are 90% silver, and the way they did coinage back then was really unique. Basically, you get an ounce of silver when you get a $1.40 face value. So $1.40 face value, no matter how you make it up. If you take 2 of these halves and 4 dimes, that is an ounce of silver between all of them. If you take 4 quarters and 4 dimes, ounce of silver, 2 quarters, 1 half, 4 dimes, ounce of silver. Any way you get to $1.40, you have effectively an ounce of silver. Now, one of the cons with junk silver that I was touching on earlier is some of the older stuff wears down. So you see this Walking Liberty, there's a lot of detail lost because the coin was circulated and used for decades. That first Franklin I pulled out, very, very worn down and a little nick taken out of it. Very worn down and what we would call slick. Versus these 1964 Kennedys are pretty crisp and uncirculated, because by the time they came out with these, they were already starting to be worth more than 50 cents in silver. So a lot of these got bought and thrown into safes and were never actually ran through circulation. So you find a lot of very, very beautiful, nice looking 1964 Kennedys. So when you're talking about silver stacking, there's a little bit of a debate on whether the newer stuff or the older stuff is the better way to go. Personally, my 2 favorite coins are the Mercury Dime and the Walker. I will stack up as many of those that I can get at a good price, but there's a lot of people who don't even want to pay the full amount for a Walker that they would for a Kennedy, because you are getting generally less silver from them being worn down. Let me show a little example of that. All of these are a tube's worth that I laid out here. So we have $10 face in Walking Liberties there versus $10 face in Kennedy's. Let's move the Benjis out of the way and let's set these 2 side by side. Now, it's hard to see from the angle, but you actually have an entire coin height difference. An entire coin height difference in the Kennedys. They are that much taller, and if we threw them on the scale, we would see a similar effect. Let's tear this out. Walkers, 7.84 ounces. Troy ounces. Kennedys, 8.045. So you are getting technically more physical silver in the less circulated coinage, whether that's the Kennedys, if you get some BU Washington quarters. Same debate with the Rosie dimes versus the Mercury dimes. Some people are willing to pay more for Mercs. Some people will prefer to have Rosies because of the additional weight in silver. Now, with that being said, when you go to your coin dealer or you go to your local bullion dealer, they are typically going to sell you based on the face value. So they're not going to care if it's $10 of Rosie dimes, $10 of Mercury dimes, $10 of Kennedy halves, or $10 of Walkers. They're going to pay you the same times face amount. So let's say right now I think we're melting around 19 times face, so your shop might pay you 18 times face. What that means is for $1 of any of this, however you make $1, they will pay you $18. So whether that's 2 of these, $18, 2 of these, $18, even though you're technically getting more silver in the Kennedys because they've been less circulated and worn. Now, with that being the case, I will tell you, in the last big run-up in 2011, I did see some dealers paying less money for the older coinage and additional money for the newer coinage because of that silver weight. So if we get to a point where silver value is increasing and increasing, which right now, I mean, we're at almost double where we were a year and a half ago. If we get to a point where we're going $50, $60, $70 silver again, you might start to see that same thing happen where these are actually getting paid a little bit more than these guys would. Or the silver dealer is simply going to put them on a scale like I did there and pay you whatever the weight is times the 90% silver content. And in that case, your $10 of Walkers is actually going to get you less money than your $10 of Kennedys because, as you saw, they weighed more on the scale. With that in mind, for me, I don't really care about that. I like the look of the older coinage. I think they're beautiful, especially the Walkers and the Mercuries. So I'll continue to stack up those. I do have Kennedys, Washingtons and Rosies in my stack. For me, those would be the first ones I liquidated if we were in a high dollar silver situation where I wanted to get rid of stuff and get some money out of it. I would be selling my Kennedy halves, my Rosie dimes, and my nice Washington quarters, the ones that have the most silver weight, the first, and holding on to some of my older coinage like the Walking Liberty. I also feel like these are a lot more iconic, and in some kind of SHTF scenario, a lot more people are going to recognize these as having some value and really being silver, since, especially the Walkers, since they share the image of the American Silver Eagle. So there's going to be a lot of opinions. Feel free to drop those in the comments if you disagree with me, if you think you're crazy, if you think I'm crazy and the 64 Kennedys are the only one to stack up. But for me, I like my Walkers and my Mercuries. Hopefully you found this video interesting. If you have any questions about constitutional silver or different types, feel free to drop them in the comments below. The last thing I will point out is there are other types of constitutional you might get, like the SLQs. There's also barbers in halves, dimes, and quarters, but you generally don't see those as much in your junk silver bags from your bullion dealer or your coin shop. A lot more of those are going to have some numismatic value and are sold individually as coins, but occasionally you will get some worn down barbers and stuff like that in your halves or quarter rolls. Other than that, guys, that's all I had for today. Hopefully you guys are having an awesome day. Keep stacking hard, stacking up the gold and silver, and make sure to like the video if you enjoyed the content. Drop a comment below, subscribe if you're not already. Check out my links. Go on to my Instagram. I post a lot of content on IG as well as here on YouTube. Just getting started on YouTube. I've been on Instagram a lot longer. So feel free to check me out. Drop me a message. Drop me a comment. Love to talk to the community. Other than that, guys, have a great rest of your day, and I will see you on the next one.